Okay, we're at step 7. Step 7 is humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. So again, him being God or your higher power. And so in this step, I view it as when we go back to the step that said taking inventory, that I imagine that this is the back of the store. So it was John's storefront, and you came in and you experienced John with all of his inventory of anger, resentment, fear, mistrust. But by this point, I've been trying to work on changing the values that I live by to not present that to people. And at this point, everything can be removed, or at least a larger portion of it can be removed by taking it out the back door into the alley and throwing it into the garbage truck. So the garbage truck being, in my case, I believe in God as that, and that it says let go, let God, and this is the garbage pickup. So I'm taking everything out of my storage room that I no longer want to be there. That's not as easy as just throwing it out, but again, I've worked through a lot of it by this point and been able to make a lot of changes in my life. My relationships are better, and I have a lot more trust and respect and other things, but I still have stuff in my inventory that I'm dragging into my new relationships or continuing to practice in my old ones, and I want to finish getting rid of that. So step 7 gives me the opportunity to trust in that there is a higher power that can help me to do that at a greater extent than I could ever do it by myself. And so I did my own personal work and worked through it to the best of my ability. Now it's time to let go and let God help me to become a better person and turn my will over to the care of God. So at this point, I'm taking that stuff out. So I have anger, hatred, self-centeredness, abuse, resentment, mistrust, and fear that I'm carrying out and throwing away. Also, as a part of step 7, I see that this is more counseling than the steps, but again, it fits in, so I use it here. That if we imagine that there's a timeline here of we have the age that I am from 0 to 5, 10, and on to 40 years old, but then we have the age of my behavior and my accomplishments. So the normal line would be for me to pretty much go straight through and be the age that I am in my behaviors and my accomplishments, as well as in my age. So with everyone, you start school and you have some challenges in trying to live with the relationships with a whole bunch of new people who are not from in your family, and so it starts to get a little bumpy and wavy, and by the time you're getting into your mid-20s, it's starting to even out, and by the time you're getting to be about 25 to 30, it's a pretty smooth line generally, going from there that you're moving forward. With a person who has addiction, usually somewhere between 13, 14 years old when you hit your adolescence, you take a detour. And so the addiction line of your accomplishments, behavior, and development stays stuck at between 14 or 15 going up to your teens. Anyway, you stay stuck in your teens. Instead of growing, you just get older, but you don't mature. And so the line starts off getting bumpy as it would for normal, but it's more bumpy, and then there's shorter time spans between how bumpy it is. So you go into some growth and development, but then you fall down as high as you get up in your growth and development, that you're starting to grow by a couple of years. You'll turn around and your addiction will bring you back down to being a 13-year-old again. And so that line goes like this, and again, the time that it takes to have these huge ups and downs becomes shorter and shorter, and eventually you're either going to take a road to go into recovery, which will quickly help you to come up to where you would be age appropriate, your accomplishments, your behavior, the person that you are, the values that you live by, will mature at a quicker rate, and you will eventually catch up to where you're supposed to be in your life, become the person you were meant to be. Or you will, instead of having ups and downs, you will eventually crash and find yourself dead. That there's basically, with addicts, if you continue to be a practicing addict, you're either going to fall into jails, institutions, or death. So you may go to jail and live for a longer period of time, but you've lost your freedom and ability to develop. You may go into institutions because the drugs will affect the way that your emotions work and your mental capacities work in such a way that you will develop a mental illness or an emotional illness or a personality disorder that will stop you from being able to live in the community with other people. And then the third one is that you die. Addicts die at a faster rate than any other group of people. They still have all of the other things that can happen that people die from who are not addicts, and on top of that, that they're more likely to have accidents, and they're more likely to put themselves in dangerous situations in which they could be killed, and they're more likely to just have an overdose from their drugs and die. So so that's the eventual downfall. And again, a addict today, again, alcoholics used to live until they were in their 40s and then get into recovery. Today, drug addicts tend to, they're lucky if they make it until they're, 25 or 30 before they've had an accident, an OD, or place themselves in dangerous situations while seeking out their drug lifestyle. And the death sentence for addicts is much younger than it was for alcoholics. Again, certainly alcoholics had car accidents and situations in which they died early too, but again, the rate with drug addicts is much, much higher. So this is the chart kind of describes that, is that you can turn your will and your life over to God and get into recovery, or and work the 12-step program, or you're going to probably continue to follow that path instead of this one.